All right. This is If My People Bible reading, and you've gone through the Bible. Now you're going through the specific request that people have asked for. And this one has to do with how should we be living in this COVID crappy world that we live in and all the incredible lies that you're finding from one end of the gamut to the other. You can't trust anything anymore. You have to test everything. Um, we're going to do that. The Bible says this. It says to be set apart and to come out of her, my people. And so we're going to illustrate by this one's going to be called Science Applied by Bruce Scott, Atomic Bombs to Chem Clouds, Chem Trails. And I'm going to put that together for you so it makes sense. And I'll do the video first so that you can follow along and get a little entertainment. Listen carefully to what you're about to see and what I'm about to say, okay? All right. Since 1945, the understanding of nuclear abilities has been around a couple dozen years before the first nuclear bomb was made. If you were going to any college, any institution, any school, any professor, anywhere in the world, I would ask you to do this. You go in and ask them, dear professor, honorable professor, genius of the world, I have a question. If 33,000 atomic bombs had been set off since 1945 till today, would we be alive? Well, the students, of course, would always be on the side of the professor, and always the teacher's always right, and books and education is always correct, and the government is always correct. I would say this: the majority of the government is not correct. The majority of the colleges, the great majority, especially the institutionalized high schools, grade schools, kindergartens, colleges, Ivy Leagues are giving you a bunch of huge lies, and people are soaking it up like crazy. So the professor thinks that, of course, we wouldn't be alive. And what you're looking at is nuclear bombs being set off across the world. Now, you'll notice on the left in Nevada, heavy area. I used to live in Nevada. I used to wear a chem tag, and my brother used to one. Both of us had to wear one, and then once a month the government officials would come in and take them off of us. And back when we lived there in the 60s, there were approximately, I'm thinking a couple thousand nuclear atomic bombs had been set off, nuclear devices had been set off on the ground, above the air, in the water, and so forth, and especially in Nevada underground. Unbelievable amount. Now, if you add them up, it adds up to thousands and thousands of nuclear bombs have already gone off. But when you compare how much more powerful nuclear is to atomic, about 33,000 atomic bombs have been set off since 1945, and yet we're doing just fine, aren't we? Kinda. Our DNA is falling apart, folks, in massive amounts. The DNA, the ability to even women have children, is being affected. So how should we live? How do we live in these last days? For those of us who believe that these are the last days, by what we see and what we hear. When you look around and everything is a huge lie. Uh, I used to be able to go to the internet when I taught college for 20 years, and I showed students. I said, this is a chemtrail. This is a contrail. A contrail is made by the exhaust that comes out superheated. It hits the air at high atmospheres and it turns into a mist, and it goes away shortly afterwards. But the chemtrails have been going on much longer than jets, because they were even doing this in the 1880s to alter weather, to shoot silver iodide into the sky, and hopefully it would seed the clouds and you would have rain. So we're trying to affect the weather. The government is now trying to continually make weather and change. Now you'll notice the weather changing. Tremendous tornadoes, tremendous hurricanes, tremendous monsoons, tremendous over rains 10, 12 inches. I mean, unbelievable things. And they're blaming it on mankind. Well, they're right about that. Mankind is heavily involved in it, but it's not what you think. It's not from the methane and so forth that humans and animals, they're trying us to stop eating animals because the meat, we need to stop eating cows and all these other things because it creates methane from their waste. Let me ask you this question. North of the equator, if all the trees north of the equator, the majority of the trees, were to die every year, would that create a tremendous amount of methane and other gases? Oh, that's interesting because that's what it does when the leaves fall off the trees. And yet, somehow, it's our fault. So, looking at 33,000 atomic bombs having set off, which we now, or you easily watch, there it is in front of you. It's there. And the fact that the Chem Trails have been done by many agencies, including, let's get out of this. Let's go back to, including Grace Corporation. You ever heard of Grace? Have you ever heard of Duke Energy? And the chemicals that are made to put in the jet fuel for reducing the radiation in the air. Currently, as I told you before, when I was in Nevada as a young man, it was around 15 to 17. That's what my little rad badge showed. And now it's dropped down to like 7. So there has been a reduction in the radiation in the air. But Fukushima certainly changed that. Chernobyl, which means, by the way, wormwood, certainly changed that, didn't it? People won't be able to go back to Chernobyl wormwood for another, I don't know, 3,000 to 5,000 years. So how should we live like that? Now we're having all these disasters. There's a pandemic. There's a disaster every month on the news. What is the latest disaster? COVID. Does something good come out of that for us who are believers, Christians, real Christians, not the fake ones, real Messianics, real ones, real Hebrew roots? How about avoiding, how do you shut down people like that? Well, you could stop using their nonsense, like higher education. You can get higher education by simply reading a book than going to college these days, trust me. Social media, Twitters, Facebook, all the other connection stuff. Do you really have to have it? Do you really have to have it? For thousands and thousands of years, your parents and other brothers and sisters from thousands of years ago didn't need it. All of a sudden, yeah, I have to have it. Chemtrails, it's a real thing. They put it in the air to help reduce. They put metals in there. They put barium. They put antimony. They're putting stuff in the air intentionally. And sometimes it's to harm you. And no, that's not gasoline being leaked out because it's excess. The jets are getting rid of it. All the stuff you see that 15, 20 years ago on the internet, it was there, even from government officials explaining the truth of chemtrails. Now you can't find any government official. All that stuff has been removed. Big pharmacy. Oh, everybody, like majority of the people in the world are dependent on pharmacy just to get through the day. Just to get through the day. The month. I can't make it without big pharmacy. Well, here's some things. Get up every day and put in 2 or 3 miles. No matter what. Put in 2 or 3 miles. Get off the couch. How about eating food? Here's one that's fascinating. People that are trying to go after you and bury you and get rid of you because they don't want you here anymore. Bill Gates, the whole group, they want to reduce the world population. Did you ever hear the Bill Gates thing? He says, we need to take care of people, go throughout the world and give them vaccines. They need lots of vaccines. And then about a minute later he says, to reduce the population of the world. What did he mean by that? He says it in his internet. You can actually still see it. It hasn't been removed. How brash are these people? And they tell you at the same time, these are the people that don't want you to live, but they're eating all kinds of shrimp and they're eating all kinds of fish with their mouths go down like catfish and lobsters and all that. All these things were designed by Yahweh, the Father, God Almighty, to keep the earth clean and to keep the streams clean, to keep the oceans clean, to keep the beaches clean. And we're scooping them up and eating the shellfish and eating everything that filters the earth. We're eating the filters. living beyond ability. Do you have to have a husband and wife working 2 or 3, 4 jobs just to make a living? Do you have to have all this stuff? Do you have to be in debt? The answer is no. Get rid of all this. Get rid of all this. And it's being forced on you by big tech and by big pharmacy and by big government. Everybody's big, and all the middle people, all the middle class people are being destroyed. There's a reason for it. The mom and pop stores, take care of them. These mega corporations where you go get Kmart, Target, Amazon, all this stuff, Walmart. You're killing the small operations. You can stop this. You can shut them down financially. You can destroy them. If you don't buy from them, they don't make any money. And you can take care at the same time the mom and pops. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you to go out there and nobody says want to harm anybody, go out there and guns and shooting people. I'm not saying. I'm saying absolutely doing these things. Eating the right food every day. Rid yourself of this. You've got to text people 200 or 300 times a month. I know. Here's one. Try sitting down with them and talking to them. Try writing a letter. I've heard some people laugh at me on this one. Writing a letter? An email? Snail mail? Nobody does it. You hear the word always and never and nobody. You hear that often coming out of people's mouths when they're trying to justify what they say. They have to use the word always, never, nobody. It's not true, and you know it. AI, artificial intelligence, that's going to be the death bell of a lot of people's jobs. Computers who take control, they like to let computers do all that for them. It's going to eliminate so many jobs. All this. Institutionalized churches are sitting there just giving people total nonsense behind that pulpit. Oh, I know. Or else they give this one, the prodigal son. If I hear that for the 500th time in my life or 2,000th time I've heard the prodigal son story, there's a lot of other stuff in the Word. Try reading the whole thing from beginning to end, as we gave you in If My People, Bible reading, part 1 through part 235. I think it's something like that. Social media, get rid of it. Stupid education system, it's just no good. And all the stuff that has been created in the last 20, 30 years has been used against people. So that's how we should live. We should live avoiding all these things and to come out of that stuff. That means institutionalized churches. Running to a church is running right into a wall of flames. And so they're no better than the government. They're just a business. They're sitting there looking at their little businesses, wearing their little collars and so forth. Oh, and be set apart. Find out who people who have like mind, like us. Cleveland, Tennessee, fantastic place there, but not everybody can go to Cleveland. Tell Bill that. Bill, not everybody's coming to Cleveland, but you don't want everybody coming. I hope you understand what I'm saying. This is, you have to totally rethink everything. Don't depend on a majority of everything the world wants you to go to trust. Trust them. Change is coming, folks. Obama promised that years ago, and boy, it's going. What goes around comes around. So, be set apart. Come out of her. Stay strong in the Word. And that's how we should live in these last days. It's going to be, okay, I read the book, I read the Bible at the end, and in chapter 22, we win. Shalom.